Recently, Crooked Eye did an interview with HotNewHipHop.com. I knew this article would be interesting just by skimming through it. I've been a huge fan of rap ever since I started listening to Eminem. Through his music, I was able to discover various West Coast rappers who collaborated with him. Eminem wasn't necessarily my introduction to rap music, but he made me so obsessed with the genre. Crooked Eye is someone who's been in the rap game for 20 years, but he is often overshadowed by the success of others he is associated with. I really don't know much about him or his career, but like the author of this article mentioned, the fact that he has experienced 2 separate record deals with both Suge Knight and Eminem is a wealth of material for anyone that values hip-hop mythology. I thought this would be a good opportunity to brush up on my knowledge of West Coast hip-hop. Crooked Eye first came into the game when he got a deal with Virgin Records. His deal soon fell apart when Virgin let go of most of the artists in their urban division. During a radio interview, the host asked what was next for Crooked Eye. Crook told the host that he didn't know. One of the Dog Pound founding members, Big C Style, and another one of Crooked's friends were there during the interview. They interrupted Crooked by telling the host, "Hey man, we thinking about going to death row." As they were leaving the radio station, someone called them and said, "Hey man, Dr. Dre heard you on the radio, and he wants to talk to you." When they met up with Dr. Dre, Crooked played him his song, Game for Sale. Dre told Crooked, "This is crazy. Don't go to death row, talk to me." Crooked Eye ended up getting on Sway and King Tech's album, This or That, since Dre was doing a project with King Tech at the time. But Dr. Dre never officially assigned Crooked to Aftermath, because between Eminem, the Chronic 2001, and the Up in Smoke tour, Dr. Dre was just too busy. Interested in signing a deal with Death Row, Crooked Eye traveled to Sacramento to visit Suge Knight in Mule Creek Prison. Suge Knight had his Tahoe truck parked at the airport, which is very expensive to do. Supposedly he had it parked there for 6 years, and everybody from out of town would use it to visit him in prison. Crooked Eye and Suge Knight worked out negotiations for a deal right underneath gun towers and barbed wire fences. With Suge's blessing, Crooked started recording albums on Death Row. He would keep in touch with Suge over the phone. Crooked Eye would play Suge his most current music. 2 years later, Suge Knight got out of jail. But by the time he was a free man, the landscape of the music industry had changed. There were many successful hip-hop moguls such as Birdman, Jay-Z, and Master P. Even though Suge was able to invest money in big projects, he had burned most of his bridges and eventually became blackballed. Crooked Eye decided to leave Death Row since he was no longer benefiting from being signed to their label. Disagreeing with Crook's decision, Suge Knight took Crooked Eye to court. Even though Suge wasn't happy about losing the case against him, Crooked Eye never went to the press to badmouth Suge like other rappers had done. They talked it out like men and stayed in contact with each other throughout the years. Recently, Crooked Eye met up with Eminem at his studio in Detroit on the day M dropped the song Kill Shot. He asked Eminem, "Hey man, what you gonna do with Glass House?" The room became silent with tension until Crooked Eye burst out laughing. Everyone else started They started cracking up as well, not pooping. Eminem replied, Yeah, man, what are we gonna do with that? I gotta think about it. Glass House was the album Slaughterhouse. The album Slaughterhouse never ended up releasing. Glass House was the album Slaughterhouse never ended up releasing. Crooked mentioned him and Royce the 5'9" rented out a place in New York for a month and a half to focus on creating this album. Supposedly it was almost complete. They had enough songs to put out a decent album. But everyone's ego got in the way, and they never released it due to conflicts of interest. People have claimed that Eminem ruined their first album, Welcome to Our House, because he used too much of his production. Crook'S defended Eminem about Slaughterhouse. He said M only chose 1 or 2 beats for Welcome to Our House, and they had a voting system for making any major decisions about that album. When they were making their album, Glass House, Eminem was too busy to be in New York during their sessions in the studio. This gave the producers and remaining members of Slaughterhouse complete creative control without any input from Eminem whatsoever. Somehow it became easier to hop on the Eminem hate train and believe the narrative that he single-handedly sabotaged Slaughterhouse. In reality, Eminem financed the budget for all Slaughterhouse projects, and he used his platform to promote their projects worldwide. It seems as if things fell apart when Joe Budden started using his platform to trash Eminem. M discussed this in his most recent interview with Sway. He said he was flying from location to location, doing interviews, and trying to pump up Slaughterhouse every chance he could get. I think everyone in Slaughterhouse decided that Joe was too busy dissing M in raps and podcasts. He was too busy dissing M in raps and podcasts, and he would rather further his career as a hip-hop commentator than maintain communication with his fellow Slaughterhouse members. Unfortunately, this is part of the reason why the release of Glass House has been put on an indefinite hiatus. Recently, Crook'S was on Joe Budden's show, The Pull-Up. The interview got personal and was filled with a lot of tension. Around this time, Joe Budden dissed Eminem during one of his podcasts. Crook'S felt he had been used to hype up all the negative attention and drama. In an era of rap where being lyrical doesn't necessarily make you the best rapper, Crook'S thinks taking your craft seriously is a crucial factor to longevity in your rap career. He disagrees with Lord Jamar, saying there's no content in those spiritual miracle rappity raps. Just because you don't require the skill to write lyrics of such high caliber doesn't mean lyrical rap is incapable of providing content. Trashing lyrical rappers gives leeway for culture vultures to exploit hip-hop culture by profiting off of mumble rappers. If we want rap to be well-rounded, the younger generation needs to be more open to listening to the old generation. And the old generation needs to have more empathy when discussing the current state of rap with the young generation. Crook'S has always had his finger on the pulse of hip-hop. He has been utilizing social media since MySpace, making weekly hip-hop freestyles catered to his fans. Crook'S actively strives to protect and preserve hip-hop culture through his music and social media platforms. Him and his younger brothers rap together in their group called Family Business. They just released an EP titled Grand Opening. He is constantly communicating with fans on Twitter and Instagram. He has a YouTube channel called Crook'S Corner. That's Crook'S Corner, which is somewhat of a spin-off of his podcast. I got some information that I'm talking about from one of his first videos about Joe Budden versus Eminem and the Slaughterhouse breakup. Joe Budden versus Eminem and the Slaughterhouse breakup. That's the title of the video. Go, you guys should go look it up. It's pretty interesting, even though it's really long. The interview was conducted by Mitch Finley from HotNewHipHop.com. Have a great day, everybody!